And now it's time to welcome to the ABLF stage Fadi Pharaon, Senior Vice President and Head of Market Area Middle East and Africa for Ericsson. In the Middle East and Africa region, Fadi serves customers across 70 countries with Ericsson's innovative technology and services. He's also a member of the Ericsson Group Executive Team, and throughout his career, he has demonstrated an ability to deliver customer value combined with a business development focus for creating new opportunities. Fadi, welcome. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you very much for having me today.
Now, Fadi, we would love for you to start off by talking to us about the biggest challenges and opportunities that the pandemic has provided for Ericsson.
Sure. I mean, when the pandemic started, our first focus was how to ensure the well-being, the safety, and the motivation of our employees. And also, how can we ensure business continuity for all our customers? Now, I think our story is very similar to many other industries, because when the pandemic and the lockdowns came in, they came in quite abruptly back in 2020. And it brought a lot of new set of challenges. First, I can mention that our customers, and we call them communication service providers, or CSP for short, those are the operators, they actually had to contend with a deluge of increased mobile data traffic. Why? Because you had study at home, you had work at home, basically you had live at home during that period. And this meant that the traffic load really surged up significantly in the networks. So we had to work quickly and being ahead of the curve with our customers in terms of how to increase the capacity in these networks. And it took a combination of adding hardware as well as managing specific software features to do this. Then we have another challenge, which of course is more internal, and that is how do we handle the production and the supply chain of our own equipment. And remember, we saw a surge in demand, right? And I have to say that we did it very well as a company. We actually had a very good knowledge and early knowledge about the supply requirements that were coming to us. And I'm proud to say that we've gone through the past 2 years in a relative strong shape when it comes to our ability to provide these solutions to our customers as per the demand that they have. Now, the other side of the coin, and that is if you want to look at the opportunities of the pandemic, we can definitely see that people, businesses, and governments have realized how critical these mobile broadband networks are actually, the role that they're playing in our everyday lives. So it's been seen now as a critical infrastructure and really an essential part of any country's ambition to ensure that people and businesses, they stay connected, they sustain the economy, and handle other critical systems. So we have seen this kind of unprecedented acceleration in terms of the adoption of mobile broadband. You could see a higher adoption of advanced smartphones in multiple parts of Africa. And this has ensured a larger part of the society really adopting these services and making themselves more inclusive in the digital economy. We've seen examples both in terms of consumers, but also on the businesses. They reverted more towards types of automation and, of course, ensuring that their workers could be connected at any time, at any point.
All of those are so important. And what's interesting is climate change is one of those challenges that is there in tandem with the pandemic right now. So talk to us a little bit about how Ericsson is using technology, in fact, to tackle climate change challenges and ensure sustainable development in the post-pandemic era.
Sure. In Ericsson, we've been a sustainability pioneer kind of thing. We have always been advocating for climate action, and we've been investing ourselves in a lot of research and development in terms of climate solutions. Now, we believe that we need to leverage technology such as digitalization, 5G, and others, because they will be fundamental to able to halve the emissions every decade. If we look at Ericsson, we have actually been cutting our own emissions by 50% in the last decade, and we are working to meet further reductions. When it comes to the climate crisis, the science is very clear, Sally. We need to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees. So this means we need to cut the global greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030, and also become net zero before 2050. Now, when we look at the ICT world, we see that if we use these solutions in the right way, it will help all of the companies to meet these 2030 milestones, to get the industries to move towards a low carbon economy so we can mitigate this climate change. In isolation, the ICT sector stands today for 1.4% of the global greenhouse gas emissions today. However, the good news is that the research show that if we use ICT solutions correctly, we can enable 15% of reduction across all sectors. And if you add to that a technology like 5G, it actually has the potential to bring greater reductions in CO2. Why? Because we see 5G as a very large innovation platform, and it will have a direct impact on a very broad range of industries like smart manufacturing or public transport systems, smart power grids to support electric vehicles, or even in terms of more renewable energy coming on stream. So this is a big ambition. Now, in 2021, we took a decision in our company to be carbon neutral by 2030, and also to focus on a net zero greenhouse gas emissions from our own activities. We are reducing our emissions, and it's very important for us that it's not only a matter of offsetting them, but really working towards utilizing 100% renewable energy in all our operations. Today, we stand at 62% of the energy utilization in Ericsson is from renewable energy sources. But when we look at the majority of our energy use, it's actually the network operations, meaning all of the base stations we have through our customer operators around the world. The research shows that the lifetime energy usage from these Ericsson delivered products remains the major contributor to our carbon footprint. So because of that, we have an ambition to cut our energy savings by 35%, actually this year, 2022, compared to the legacy products we had 5 years ago in the network. One maybe last example I'd like to share is the Ericsson 5G Smart Factory, which we have launched in the US. It's actually been recognized as a global lighthouse by the World Economic Forum, because not only does it rely on 100% renewable energy, but it also uses a lot of these ICT cases combined with 5G. So you can see autonomous vehicles moving around, lowering the requirement for manual usage of products. Water needs went down by 75%. And it's today a real use case that we want to share with our operators on how you can use ICT to lower greenhouse emissions. Thank you.
It's so great to see Ericsson taking such a leading role. Digital inclusion is another key area for Ericsson. So we'd love for you to elaborate on the strategies that are being employed to increase digital inclusivity, especially in countries that are not yet so digitally savvy.
If you look at mobile broadband coverage, today we actually are able to cover 92% of the world's population, by 2024, I should say. And this is a very impressive scale because it brings really a lot of opportunities to address global challenges such as sustainable development, digital inclusivity. And we at Ericsson are very committed to expand access to education by the users of ICT solutions. We've been active actually across the globe now for 10 years. We have rolled out programs which have impacted more than 200,000 students around 25 countries. In 2020, we joined forces with UNICEF in a program called the GIGA program, and that is to help close that gap by mapping all unconnected schools worldwide. And according to a report by the Economist Intelligence Unit, it says that actually if you increase the connectivity in the schools by 10%, you can effectively increase the number of years that children are attending schools by 0.6%, and the GDP for that country per capita by 1.1%. So an incredible impact by connecting schools. So we have pledged that we will positively impact 1 million children and youth by 2025. We're going to provide them access to digital learning and skill development programs. And we have this education initiative, we call it Connect to Learn. And this is our way on establishing an inclusive digital infrastructure so we can empower not only the students themselves, but also their teachers and the schools to deliver a quality education, which hopefully will be accessible to all. So we are fully committed to serving the next wave of the internet users. And our aspiration is to always make mobile broadband access more affordable and more accessible for all.
That's fantastic. We have a question coming in for you, Fadi. This one is from Jan in Abu Dhabi. She's asking, what's the secret to creating a competitive advantage in this post-digital world that you foresee?
I think some of the secrets remain the same pre or post. I mean, most important is to be close to your customers and really listen. Frankly, I feel today we are closer to the customer post-pandemic. Why? Because especially when you're running a region like ours with 70 countries, you had to physically travel and get the calendars from both customer and our sites to match. And today it's much easier to just take a video call, such like we are doing right now, Sally. So frankly, the frequency of being able to access the executives of our customers has increased because of this facility. And that has helped us to engage in more dialogue, listen to their requirements, and try to adapt them. Now, there is another side to that coin as well, and that is how to keep the motivation high when it comes to employees, especially if those have come to the company recently. If you work with somebody for 3 to 5 years, you have a well-established relationship, a well-established processes. But somebody that joins the company through the pandemic, it makes it a bigger hurdle, of course, to onboard them. And we need to make sure that we just keep close to our employees, give them a call a couple times a week, just see how they're doing, and spend more time in terms of trying to coach them.
Absolutely. And that as well, we would love for you to talk about the importance of partnerships, and particularly the ones that Ericsson has involved in that are driving the tech-enabled growth of the varied sectors in the region.
Sure. So we've seen that our operators, the customers' operators, they're actually accelerating the network transformation because of this increase of services I mentioned before. They see, for instance, parts of Africa, an advanced or accelerated increase of 4G adoption with the smartphones. We see in parts of the Middle East, and in particular in the Gulf countries where 5G has been launched, now a bigger acceptance, not only from consumer, but also enterprise side. So we've announced a lot of different partnership agreements with our key customers, and many of them were actually 5G agreements. And we believe that this push to digitalize is really supporting the economic vision of many countries. As I mentioned, the big, let's say, promise moving forward now with 5G is how can you deliver use cases for specific industry verticals. In terms of smart manufacturing, like the example I mentioned in our own plant in Texas, or how do you enable a port to reduce the time it takes to offload and put on the containers, or even how to introduce 5G to make agriculture smarter and enable them to have sensors and check how the soil is humid and what are the temperature. So we really see that the tech evolution will be very much related to digitizing and connecting industry segments so they can bring cost efficiencies or increase productivity. I also want to mention in Africa a very interesting pattern there, and that is a lot of mobile financial services have been actually deployed. Somehow pushed because of the pandemic, people don't want to handle cash manually. So they're using their phones in order to do payments, receive money, or manage e-commerce. And we have seen this trend coming into the Middle East as well. So for us, we are looking at this region as the hub for Ericsson's focus and customer collaboration on mobile financial services, because the uptake here is really phenomenal.
Sarah from Saudi Arabia has texted in with her question. In your opinion, what is the best way to balance innovation and risk to achieve the best in digitization?
I think it's difficult to balance because if you try to put in some kind of methodology and management, you might stifle a little bit the input of innovation. So in Ericsson, we have actually a well-established organization that asks employees from all over the world, we are 100,000 employees worldwide, to work on ideas as if they were a startup, but it has to make sense. It has to be connected to what we do in terms of our brand and improve, let's say, the business of our own customers. And it's been very, very successful. So a lot of people are coming up with great ideas. And of course, there's a kind of triage process where the best ones, would go further to get support and coaching. And hopefully the few ones that will go all the way to see their idea becoming a product or a solution that the company will push out. So, I think we start with the typical pyramid base, and then you have different types of, let's say, reviews to ensure that it really adds value.
And so, talk to us a bit more, Fadi, about the major projects for Ericsson in the UAE that align with the UAE government's vision to accelerate the digital transformation of industries.
Sure. Digitalization is absolutely changing every aspect of the world today and making knowledge very accessible. And it has contributed to all of the development of the sectors in the UAE. And I think it has really enabled the nation to make these themes and the vision become a reality. Now we have technologies like 5G, IoT, and the cloud. And suddenly you have this incredible opportunity for technological advancements. And we all look forward now to furthering this journey in collaboration, of course, with our customers and the ecosystem in the UAE, so we can realize the UAE Vision 2030. Ericsson has been here for what time? Since the 1980s. It started at that time with deploying 3G networks. We evolved in 4G. And today we are launching a lot of advanced services that are enabled by 5G, IoT, and the cloud. Based on the previous question, actually, we established here an innovation hub back in 2018. And the purpose of that hub was to work with small, medium enterprises, entrepreneurs, and of course, university students. So we can engage with the operators and the industry so we can explore the potential of 5G and other technologies. And from there, we've got a lot of different branches. One of them was last year, we launched what we call the UAE Together Apart Hackathon. It was actually inspired by the UAE Vision 2021, the 6 pillars that come with that vision. So we asked, academia, entrepreneurs, and everybody to come in and see how can you use 5G to reach these 6 pillars of Vision 2021. And we were honored that the hackathon was under the patronage of the Ministry of Economy of the UAE. And we had the winners of this hackathon very recently present their use cases at the Swedish Pavilion in the Dubai Expo 2020. Another example of collaboration is we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the UAE University for autonomous driving, how to develop these use cases in the country. And finally, we are working with the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Strategy. They've always looked at innovation as a methodology, if you want, to spread across different areas of work and make it really integral part of the strategic objectives of the country. And one recent example where we are participating is called the FODS 4.0 Industrial Revolution Champion Network. And Ericsson is part of this initiative because we want to make sure that we will contribute with insight, with thought leadership, and bring also global expertise so we can showcase what is the power of 5G and how can you use it as a platform to transform multiple sectors like manufacturing and others.
And so finally, Fadi, talk to us about the key lessons and experiences that you've had from 2020 and 2021 that you're going to be taking into the new year now.
I would say that in the last 2 years, what we have learned is really the criticality of connectivity. And looking forward, we believe it's going to continue to be front and center of any type of infrastructure. It's really going to drive the appetite for more advanced services. And we see this amongst consumers, but also amongst enterprise as well. We see also new types of revenue streams coming up for our operators. I mentioned before the mobile financial services. They really had a major boost. And of course, they are developing in parallel with what is called now fintech, and probably the both will merge at some time. And also another learning I would say is definitely how we handle and how we work together and collaborate in the company. So we are adapting our work philosophy. We're adjusting our own ways of working. So we're taking into account a kind of hybrid and a flexible work structure. What does it mean? It means that the people can work at home or in the office according to a certain set of guidelines that we have launched. And also, very importantly, we're going to redesign our offices because we believe you can physically actually come up with ideas on how you promote more team collaboration and create space for interactions and idea generations.
Fadi Pharaon, Senior Vice President and Head of Market Area Middle East and Africa for Ericsson. What an absolute pleasure to have you with us today at the ABLF Talks. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a real pleasure to be here. Wish you all the best.